Hello all, my name is Anata Nunez, and in this video I will be speaking of forced child labor and the goods sold here in the United States. Child labor refers to the work of children under the age of 18 that is mentally, physically, socially, and or morally dangerous and potentially harmful. It often interferes with their schooling, if they even go to school. According to the Compassion International, there is 168 million children involved with child labor. Many of us believe, why is it even happening? Why is child labor even happening today in this day and age? But the reason why it happens is mostly poverty. Poverty is widely considered as the top reason why children work at inappropriate jobs at such a young age. Children work because their parents are poor, they have to supplement the family income, or provide unpaid labor. In some countries, children are actually expected to work. Fun or, well, terrible fact, it actually was considered normal for children to be working in cotton mills from the age of 5 in Britain about 200 years ago. The relatively low wages are paid to children, and that is usually why employers prefer them to adult workers. Some children work unpaid, particularly as domestic workers, in conditions that would be termed as slavery to adults. Employers find children more obedient and easier to control. Unlike older workers, they are unlikely to initiate protests or form trade unions. It is also easier for adults to intimidate children. Employers can force children workers into submission when the children are dependent on them for food, for lodging, and even for emotional support. In many parts of the world, it is actually still considered acceptable for parents to beat their children, so employers take advantage of this public acceptance for corporal punishment to beat the child workers as a means of controlling them, so they fall into line. Some other of the reasons why children can end up working in child labor situations include debt, illness in the family, gender stereotypes, and maybe it's just intergenerational. So that means if the parents were child laborers, then most likely the child will be as well, because it will be considered appropriate, especially if the family owns a building or a farm or a small business. Many items that child workers work because of are items that we use pretty much on the daily. Things we use, things we eat, things we drink, such as produce, fruits and vegetables, tobacco, diamonds and gold, pornography, and the list goes on. India, for example, has children working on hand-rolled cigarettes, cotton, fireworks, footwear, gems, leather, and more specifically what I want to talk about, silk thread. And another terrible fact is that many individuals in India, including children, get paid about less than $1.25 on the daily. Just keep that in mind. In the factories and workshops that make silk thread, children often suffer from injuries from the machines and from the sharp threads. Caesarean vapor, smoke, and diesel fumes from the machines, and also the poor ventilation, causes respiratory ailments such as chronic bronchitis and asthma. For immersion in scalding water and handling dead worms, reelers' hands become raw, blistered, and sometimes even infected. 12-year-old T. Basher, that was interviewed by the Human Rights Watch, worked in a silk reeling unit until 25 days before he was actually interviewed. And he said that boiling water falls on your hand, you are always in the water, standing in it, the skin on your hands and feet peel off, and it gets loose. Anisha K., another girl interviewed by the Human Rights Watch, she was 11 years old when she was interviewed, but she started working at a silk thread factory in India when she was 9. She would show individuals that interviewed her lumpy scars on her hands, and she would explain, I didn't like working because my hands would get infected. I got holes in my hands because I put them in hot water, and then they got infected. I couldn't eat, I had to eat with a spoon, and Anisha K's skin in her ankles and her feet were covered with burn scars from the boiling water. Sitting at crowded silk looms for long stretches of time exposed children to a variety of health problems. The rooms are often damp and poorly ventilated. Children sit with their legs tucked in or dangling from the chair into the pit beneath the loom. Contagious diseases, especially tuberculosis and digestive disorders, spread easily within a crowded room since there are so many children packed into them. Poor lighting and constant visual strain damages the eyesight, and the fine silk threads cut the fingers, and the cuts are very difficult to heal. This is all terrible. And worse is that the U.S., or more accurately, the U.S. companies and businesses would buy the silk threads that many of these children would work on, and why they're put into this whole fiasco in the first place. However, the U.S. finally banned imported goods made by slaves and children. U.S. Barack Obama, president, signed into law a bill containing a provision that officially bans imports of goods and made by forced labor. His own words stated that no product made by people held against their will or by children should ever be imported into the United States, which I believe is good on him. Though there are many critics that believe that there are many loopholes around this bill, even though it has been effective since 2016, there's still a lot to go to make sure that the U.S. has no affiliation with slavery, human trafficking, or forced and child labor as a whole. This will require many resources, which we will surely achieve sooner rather than later. Whether you are in the U.S. or in a different country, you need to make sure and you need to ensure that you are trying to put in the best step forward into ending child labor, even if you are just one individual. Some ways of making sure that happens is by just educating yourself. Make sure you go on appropriate websites to look up information and watch videos like this, or many more that are on YouTube. You should contact retail stores, manufacturers, and importers. Just call them up. Make sure that they know what they're using, what they're getting, the items that they make things from, that you are asking them, like, that you do not want to buy anything that was made by children. You should also share your time and your money. Instead of spending money buying a latte in the morning, just save all that money and donate it to an actual charity that will try and educate these children so that they don't work in factories anymore. And you should also educate yourself and others. So give presentations at school, go volunteer, go to community events and speak of this, since it is such a prevalent issue within the United States and outside. And especially after watching this video and possibly other videos, you are sure to have learned a couple of things that are worth mentioning in conversation to other individuals so that they may become aware of as well of this very, very large and ongoing situation. And that is that. The main resources that I used were Google, so I went on a Human Rights Watch website, I went on the International Labor Organization website. I usually went to those .gov websites to receive my information. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you strive to make a change in the world. Thank you.